Warframe is known for having outlandish weapons that deal insane damage, but what about those weapons that even beginners start out with? How would they fare in the highest levels of play? In this new series, we take Warframe's starter weapons and take them all the way to the endgame. Stick around to find out exactly how you can make any weapon into a beast. So, the Mark 1 weapons are the very first weapon a Tenno gets access to, and they usually stick around with them until they finish their first solo relay. And for a lot of the game, I would say until enemies get to level 30, they could actually carry you throughout that game. But they will fall off extremely as the enemies gain more armor and resistances. We could get around this and even make these weapons incredible by adding some late game mods. This series is going to be for late game players who want a bit more of a challenge and for those new players who need build guides to look forward to. But for your average player, I wouldn't probably ever do this. So here's the weapon for the day. The Mark 1 Braton is a fully automatic machine gun with an average fire rate and no unique effects. It's a slightly worse version of the regular Braton with a bit lower damage, crit, and status chance, meaning modding for these things are going to be very essential. Along with using our Warframe and companions to buff the damage, we're also going to be using some high-level mods from the new Warframe 1999 update, which makes it even easier to burst down single targets. Primary Acuity can give us 350 extra damage and critical chance to all weak points and headshots. With damage multipliers like critical damage and Warframe increases like Eclipse, we could hit incredible damage even with a measly 18 total damage that the Mark 1 Braton does have. So here's the standard weapon build. We're going to be taking advantage of critical chance and damage since it's the highest values that the Braton has. So primary acuity like before, vital sense, and point strike will get us to a good 20% crit chance and 3.3 times crit damage. On top of the 350% weak point damage we get from acuity, this will lead to most enemies dying pretty quickly. On top of this, we're going to be using galvanized mods to boost direct damage and critical chance, this being from galvanized aptitude and scope. Lastly, we're going to use viral to increase the damage of the innate slash that the MK1 Braton has, and we could throw on either a regular Serration mod or a Bane mod to increase the damage even further. Sadly, for weapons like this and weapons in the future of this series, they're going to have a hard time carrying themselves, so we're going to need to buff them with Warframe and companion abilities. There are a lot of options for this, but personally I think that Helmeth abilities that you could subsume onto your Warframe are really the best for this. Mirage's Eclipse will add flat damage and will stack alongside our critical hit, but there's frames such as Jade or Harrow that will work well just the same. Aside from that, Armor Strip from Terrify, Pillage, or Thorough Strike will do wonders to make sure the Braton does the maximum damage. For this, I'm going to be using Terrify because it gives 100% Armor Strip, and that's really what we're after, but anything that boosts the weapon damage and output is what we're going to be looking for. Unlike most automatic guns, the way we built this is going to make use of headshots, so we're going to need a way to either slow enemies down or group them up so we could get those sweet critical hits. I'm going to show you two different builds that do similar damage, and for this one it's going to be Neza and Harrow. Our Neza build is going to be a semi-standard Divine Retribution build with a bit more duration to give us the ability to hit headshots for longer duration, alongside Combat Discipline and Arcane Avenger to give us more crit after each kill. To do this, we are going to use Terrify and Divine Spears to strip armor and give us easy access to headshots. Just make sure the enemies that you're shooting have no armor or shields to do the most damage. We could also throw out a Chakram if you want to amplify the damage on all enemies afflicted. And as you can see, we just completely kill the entire room with only 1 or 2 enemies dead on our Divine Retribution spikes. Next up is going to be Harrow. With his increased critical chance, we could hit large crit numbers without using Arcane Avenger or Combat Discipline. For this, we're going to be using mostly Lasting Covenant, which makes sure that every headshot kill adds about 3 to 4 seconds onto our timer, meaning as long as we keep killing enemies, we will never run out of red crits. So the way we're going to do this is using Covenant and Penance to build up crit and boost attack speed, then use Condemn, and then use any armor strip like Caustic Strike or a primer to reduce the armor, and just unload onto all the enemies. As long as we're getting mostly headshots, each enemy will not live more than a couple seconds. And it does take a little bit longer than Neza's room clear, but it does show that no enemies in Steel Path can survive through the barrage of even the Mark 1 Braton. These two frames show the variation in gameplay we could use to amplify the Mark 1 Braton's damage, but it isn't an end-all be-all, so if you have any favorite frame, you could use that just the same. So play around with it and tell me what your guys' favorite frames are with this build. This series is mostly to show people that any weapon in this game can be used reliably through all types of play, and all that matters is that you enjoy what you have. There is no wrong way to play Warframe, and just because something isn't in the meta, or it doesn't do incredibly high damage, it doesn't mean that it's not good. And I just wanted to show people that. Thank you for all those who stuck around, and I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you have any more weapons you could add to this list, I would love to check them out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.
You have collected enough reactants to open your weapon.